I am going to be demonstrating my online reading strategies and processes through completing this online worksheet. I already did this once. This is actually my second try. The first one was too big to post, so I'm only going to complete about the first 5 questions and discuss my thinking as I go through them. So to begin, I see that my name and date need to be filled in, so I will do that first. Next, I'm going to look at the title, All About Bones, Online Exploration. This gives me an idea that I'm going to be learning about bones. It could be human bones, it could be animal bones, it could be anything. Next, I'm going to look towards the directions. Using the website right here, and considering it's kidshealth.org, I'm going to be assuming we're learning about the human body, and complete the following worksheet. So, I'm going to copy that, open that up in a new tab. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my first question. How many bones are in the human body? Looking at this question, seeing that it says how many, I know I'm going to be looking for a number. So I'm going to start reading here. Think back to last Halloween for a minute. Wherever you looked, there were vampires, ghosts, or bony skeletons grinning back at you. Vampires and ghosts don't really exist, but skeletons sure do. Every single person has a skeleton made up of many bones. These bones give your body structure, let you move in many ways, protect your internal organs, and more. It's time to look at all your bones. The adult human body has 206 of them. So I see my answer right there, 206. This was easily able to spot because it was a number. So I'm going to type in 206 bones. I'm going to look at my next question. What are bones made of? And here I see the same question in my title. It's really important that you look at titles and subtitles because it gives you an idea of what is to come in your reading. If you've ever seen a real skeleton or fossil in a museum, you might think that all bones are dead. I can make a personal connection to this because I have been to a museum, so while I was reading this, I was visualizing the museums that I have visited in my mind. Although bones in museums are dry, hard, or crumbly, the bones in your body are different. The bones that make up your skeleton are all very much alive, growing and changing all the time like other parts of your body. Almost every bone in your body is made of the same materials. Now I notice that there is a bulleted list and that there are bolded words in each of these. Bolded words usually represent vocabulary words or important terms. Since this section is about what your bones are made up of, I'm going to assume that those bolded words are what your bones are made up of. So now, reading them, the outer surface of the bone is called the periosteum. And now you see the parentheses, which has the pronunciation in it. That doesn't necessarily need to be read while you are reading, but if you do need help with that pronunciation, which I do not know how to pronounce that word, that would help you out. So it's a thin, dense membrane that contains nerves and blood vessels that nourish the bone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that word and I'm going to transfer it over here into my document. I'm going to go to the next one. The next layer is made up of compact bone. This part is smooth and very hard. It's the part you see when you look at a skeleton. So now I'm going to take compact bone and add it to my list. Within the compact bone are many layers of cancellous bone, which looks a bit like a sponge. Again, visualizing what a sponge looks and how that would look inside of a bone. Cancellous bone is not quite as hard as compact bone, but it is still very strong. So I'm now going to add that in here. And now my last bullet point, in many bones, the cancellous bone protects the innermost part of the bone, the bone marrow. Bone marrow is sort of like a thick jelly, and its job is to make blood cells. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to go ahead and read my next question. How many bones do babies have when they are born? Now, since I've gotten to the end of the page, I'm going to go ahead and click on the continue arrow and go on to the next page. How bones grow. So when you were a baby, you had tiny hands, tiny feet, and tiny everything. Slowly as you grew older, everything became a bit bigger, including your bones. A baby's body has about 300 bones at birth, so there is my answer. 300 bones. Seems like a lot of bones for a little baby. Next question, at what age do bones stop growing? I'm going to go back here. These eventually fuse, grow together to form the 206 bones that adults have. Some of a baby's bones are made entirely of a special material called cartilage. Other bones in a baby are partly made of cartilage. This cartilage is soft and flexible. During childhood, as you are growing, the cartilage grows and is slowly replaced by bone with help from calcium. By the time you are about 25, there's my answer, this process will be complete. After this happens, there can be no more growth. The bones are as big as they will ever be. All of these bones make up a skeleton that is both very strong and very light. So I'm going to add that in here. Now I'm going to stop here with the worksheet. I'm just going to talk about a few more things that you need to think about when you're doing online reading. One thing about reading online is that there's a lot of distractions. There's this sidebar over here, there's things going on over here, there's a bunch of stuff at the end of the page. You really have to make sure that you're focusing on the content in the page. Also, something that can be very helpful in online websites is a lot of them have something similar to this here, where you can look at specific parts. So, for example, if I look down at a question, how many bones are in your feet and ankles? Now I'm going to look here and I'm going to say, that would probably be under your legs. So I could click there and then specifically learn about that for that question. Makes it easier to navigate. Also, you see this listen symbol here. This would read it aloud to me.
Your legs. Sure, your arm, wrist, hand, and finger bone.
So that is another little helper that online websites often have. You also can see how many pages you need to read here. You can go forward, you can go backward. There's also areas where there is more on this topic and where you could print it out, send it to a friend, reprint, and there's even additional resources here at the bottom. These are all things that can be very helpful doing online reading. Also, as I mentioned before, we have our vocabulary words often in bold. As you're reading, you can be visualizing, making connections to things you know. All of that goes into the process of online reading, which is very different than having the actual paper laid in front of you where you're just reading the words on the page. Although there may be vocabulary words and you're still making connections, you're not going to have the extra resources like the listen area and the little table of contents type thing up here and extra resources and stuff like that. So thank you for listening to my screencast on online reading.